Hello, everybody, and welcome to this World Citizen Society interview. We have with a fantastic guest, the artist Edina Seleskovic, who's joining us today from Bosnia. And Edina is going to talk to us a little bit about how public art can promote healing, especially in a time of mental health crises and the climate crisis. My name's Willem. I'm a student. And yes, I will be conducting the interview today. So, Edina, I just wanted to start off by finding out, in your opinion, how do you think public art and public installation can promote social action and social awareness?
I think we've seen in the pandemic that visual art has really gone through a transformation and that visual artists have had a really hard time trying to present their work in the time when we're locked down. But I think that public art in public space, really needs to transform from objects in space into an interactive moments, beacons of interaction, communication, and connection. And I think in each city, we can see that that is happening more and more. Public art is entering public space, right? It's really going where people are and affecting their environment can really be monumental. I think it can definitely raise awareness about lots of different issues. But for climate change and mental health, it can really provide not just a visual understanding of concepts that sometimes seem abstract, right? But that it can also provide kind of a moment to ponder upon, a place where we can really kind of reconnect with our own understanding of where we are and where we're heading. And that's why I think public art installations can be really crucial. And I'm really happy to see more and more of artists really come out of their studios and really start that discourse and dialogue with the public about different issues, but especially about climate change that is affecting us more and more every day. And oftentimes we're not aware to what extent it's affecting us. So that's why visual art that is in public space that can really provide a shared experience for people who are not necessarily looking to see art, but who sometimes stumble upon it, can really be incredible.
And do you think with public art, as distinguished from sort of traditional gallery art, do you think that is significantly better at promoting social action, or it can promote social action in a slightly different way than your traditional gallery art?
Unfortunately, the art world has really, I feel like, kind of distanced itself from the public. And I think gallery spaces and museums are often considered by general public as places that are sometimes difficult to enter, not in a physical form, but in more of a psychological form. And I work a lot. Trying to sort of come out of the gallery and come out of the museums and really talk to people about art that is not in the formal setting. I think galleries and museums have become more and more formal, and the public kind of is reluctant to enter it. We see how difficult it is to bring people to art openings, no matter where you are. That's why when you go into public space, it's really interesting what happens because you're affecting somebody's living environment. And oftentimes it's really interesting that permanent public art versus temporary public art. There's also a really interesting discussion about that because I deal with temporary public installations a lot of times. And it's interesting how when you change people's environment temporarily, it almost has a larger effect because people get used to the permanent installations and they stop seeing them after a while. So that's why I think it's important for contemporary art to really start talking to the public, to really kind of extend our hand as far as artists are concerned, and to really go where the public is. So it's really interesting that public art is getting more and more, even on social media now, attention than gallery art. We constantly see those posts about really interesting public art everywhere you go. But I think it's important, and it's important also to find a way for that art to be interactive, either through physical form or through digital form, because I found in my work that the public wants to talk back, and it wants to have a dialogue. So I have kind of found ways with augmented reality and with virtual reality to really be able to provide a platform for that dialogue, so that response can be recorded. It can be kind of two-way versus just the artist speaking to the public.
And well, that leads nicely on to my next question, which is you're based in Tuzla in Bosnia, and I wonder if you could touch upon briefly how being from Tuzla, that history, how that has informed your work and the sort of public art that you create.
You know, it's really interesting. I left my hometown many, many years ago when I was a teenager for United States, and I spent most of my life in the United States, where I mainly did gallery work and exhibited pieces in galleries and museums, and all, sold them to collectors. But when I came back to Tuzla, I realized that art here has to have kind of a higher role, that it can have a role of enabling the society to move forward, believe it or not. I think it's interesting to be in a country that is kind of at the beginning of something, and that it has a lot of problems. And it's really interesting to me to see how people respond to art that is in public. So that's why I started doing public installations, and that's why I started this whole idea about using visual art as a vehicle of communication rather than just an object in space. And then coming back to Tuzla is really interesting because even though I was born here, I didn't really think about its environment and its problems and all these issues that are underneath until I came back. And I realized that when we talk about climate change and when we talk about effects that the human action has had on the environment, Tuzla has seen repercussions of that for hundreds and hundreds of years now. It's nothing new in Tuzla. And why? Tuzla is sitting on top of a salt lake that is believed to be the leftover from the Pannonian Sea. And for centuries, that salt has been excavated by the Romans, by the Turks, by every conquering army. People were pumping out the water, boiling it, and producing salts. And that salt is actually what brought people here to live. So Tuzla has 7,000 years of continuous habitation, which is pretty remarkable. And salt was really like a treasure, back in the day, it was considered currency because it could preserve foods. It could be used for many, many things that we don't even think about now. But that excavation and that kind of gift from nature that Tuzla has been given has also been its curse, because Tuzla, the city, has been sinking. And it sank just in the last 50 years over 10 meters, if you can imagine that. So there's not a building in the old town that is not cracked. Many, many buildings have to be torn down. People's devastation is you can tell it's there. It's very visible and very tangible. And when we talk about mental health, it's really incredible to watch people who've had to leave their homes from the city that they came to because it was economically prosperous. So it's really interesting to have this phenomenon that we can now translate to the modern age and say that, our environment, our life, we are using and abusing, and at the end, we're suffering. Tuzla also has large deposits of salt besides salt of coal, and now it has a power plant that's been over 40 years old. They're trying to rebuild the power plant, but the EU is not allowing it. And as a repercussion of that, of the coal mining, it has had serious pollution. To a point where it's been several years back, it was declared the most polluted city in Europe. And you see the repercussions of that on people. You see people in depression. I mean, winter months here are pretty devastating. And again, it's this treasure we had from nature that we have used and abused, and now we are kind of stuck in between. Do we continue excavating these gifts and kind of suffer for it? Or do we stop? And what happens to the economy? At this point, coal mining in Tuzla employs over 10,000 people, from the power plant and from the mines. So how do you deal with that? It's really, really incredible. And what was also incredible to me is how little of conversation about this was happening in the city. We talk about how it's polluted, but we don't really talk about how we feel. We talk about how much it affects our physical health, but we don't talk about how much it affects our mental health. And that's where I think art can be crucial, really all forms of art, but visual art especially. It can really provide a means for the understanding and means to kind of all come together because everybody here feels the same way. We have a really truly shared experience. So how do we find a place where we can feel that and where we can start healing? So in Tuzla, unfortunately, I feel like we haven't even gotten to the healing. We still have a long way of just talking about it and discussing it and really understanding how much it affects us and then start healing. And to tell you the truth, I think really art is a phenomenal way because it's a primal language, and it crosses every barrier and every cultural kind of facades that we have, and it provides something that we can all connect to.
So more personally, did you find it difficult to reconcile the conflict between sort of Tuzla, your hometown, Tuzla, this place with a rich history, but also Tuzla as quite an environmentally destructive city? And did art, as you say, help you through that?
Absolutely. I mean, I've had a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years, who I've really had close friendship with in New York. She came to visit me in Tuzla a couple of years ago. And when she was leaving, and it was winter months and it was really polluted, when she was leaving, she said to me, how can you raise your child in this air? And I really, for a second, felt horrible. I mean, not for a second, for a long time. I felt really bad because my youngest child lives in Tuzla here, and she breathes that air. So what is my justification for exposing my kid to this? I mean, exposing myself is one thing, right? But exposing your child is another thing. And after thinking about it long and hard, I realized that my justification is that somebody has to do something. And that if I already have a platform, which is visual art, if I already have the means, I have to do it. I don't really have a choice. I have to do it. Especially in a city that doesn't have a lot of contemporary art, that has only one gallery, and not even a museum for contemporary art. So I've kind of turned from an artist where an art was my career and my life into an artist who now is on a mission. And I really feel strongly that art has that power to change things. I mean, I also at the same time believe that revolutions are a matter of past and that it's all about evolution. So I truly believe that these changes have to happen step by step. And that each step is really a huge leap. So that's how I kind of do that gap in between. I mean, my life in New York and my studio in New York was a lot different, and I didn't have to worry about those big issues because there were maybe other people working on it as well. But here, I think that I have kind of placed myself, and the society has placed me into sort of a role of a pioneer. So, so I feel like because I can, I have to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Yeah. And almost another gap you need to bridge is when people are experiencing public art, when it's in their environment, how do you take that next step between experiencing the public art and then taking action to maybe solve your own mental health or solve environmental crises around you? Is it just by getting people to discuss it, or do you want to promote specific action on social issues?
Well, to tell you the truth, I feel like art saved my life at one point. I mean, my mental health and my physical health when I was kind of stuck in the United States because of the war in Bosnia, it was really art that I turned to, and it was art that helped me heal that trauma of being now completely removed from my home country and my homeland and everything I knew, and the life I had and my family, and really not knowing if they were dead or alive at one point. It was art that saved me. So that's why I think to this day, I really believe that art has that power. And my own understanding and my own kind of dealing with lots of different issues and environmental changes and all the injustice in the world, it's really art that helps me. And for me, this mission I talk about is really about allowing other people to have that ability to heal through art. So everything I do with art these days, and for last decade pretty much, is about using visual art not as precious objects, but as kind of forms that connect us. That's, like these vehicles that we can place our trauma and issues and hard times and problems into, and then send them to the world and kind of have the world meet us halfway, if that makes sense. It's interesting with public art in all of Bosnia. Actually, it doesn't have a lot of public art, especially not a lot of temporary public art. I just recently did a trip of 2,000 kilometers between three cities that are in three corners of the Bosnian geographical triangle. And it's really interesting to go into smaller towns where artists are very rare, and contemporary art is rare, and especially the kind of art that I do. It's great to exhibit at really established museums, and I love doing that as well. And in European metropolis and New York and all of that. But personally, it is the interaction is almost more honest in smaller towns. People are first surprised why I'm there at all. Then they're really flabbergasted with what we do. And then I really enjoyed the moment where they kind of start understanding contemporary art, because to them, this term contemporary art seems like this abstract thing that is meant for other people and not them. And then this dialogue happens, and it's incredible, and especially incredible with young people that I talk to a lot, high schoolers and college students. And we all kind of working together and having this dialogue and doing visual art that can allow them to speak, that kind of gives them a voice. I often call what I do my sculptures amplifiers for their voice. It's really amazing what happens. It starts slowly. They're very shy at first, but then as we talk, and when I explain to them that I'm not their professor, I want to be their colleague in a sense, and I want to erase this wall between the creator and the observer. Because I think we all now create, and we all are becoming publishers of different content. So why not use visual art as a form to do that? And wondrous things have happened. I've had so many kids tell me, "You have changed my life. I will never, ever, ever forget this moment." Even though our moment only lasted, an hour, a couple hours, or even a day. But I think visual art, again, has the power to do that. So to me, it's really incredible. And I'm ready for all the comments. It's not easy as an artist, to go into the public and to expose yourself to everybody's opinion. But if you have enough belief in what you do, people come around, and the critiques, even the unsolicited ones, are really good. They really help you grow as an artist. So I also kind of want to inspire my colleagues to open themselves up to that. And I think that's how we grow. We don't grow being just in our comfort zone. We grow by being outside of that comfort zone. And, being among the public is really what can kind of put us in a direction that we didn't even think about.
Yeah, and I think almost despite all the challenges people may face in their lives, personal or social and around them, you seem to be quite optimistic, I would say, about the next generation of young people, perhaps in their artistic endeavors or perhaps in their social endeavors more generally. Am I correct in that assumption?
I'm always optimistic. I think that is the key. I think we all need to kind of think about our actions and our words, and see how much positivity versus negativity we're putting out there. I think we all have hard times, we all have difficult times, but I think there's always a solution. And I think, the healing we talk about, and our environment, and other issues that are multiplying around it, at its core have to have that togetherness. We have to be able to come together, and until we come together, we won't be able, I don't think we'll be able to solve them. I think we really need to come as members of this understood shared humanity, in order to really make significant, moving forward. But without that, it's going to be hard. I think the new generation is really aware of something that we're not aware of when it comes to the environmental changes, which is that your generation will be pretty young, considerably, when you will feel more and more repercussions. When I think about, again, my youngest daughter was born in 2012. What will this planet look like by the time she's 30? So, I hope that the older generation will start thinking that way too, not just through our own, because when you say, 2050 or 2070, to me, that's already kind of, I'm already, at the exit of this experience called life. But you guys are not, that is your time. And if we start thinking about things through your eyes, I think we'll be able to be more determined in our action. We did a lot of things on this planet, but we're not leaving a very good picture for you guys. So you guys have to also fight for it. And I feel, everywhere I go, I see young people so determined. You just kind of need a little push, or you need a little open space for you to be able to do that. I think, again, the older generation has to start listening to you guys more and more.
And almost on that note, people who are experiencing, younger people in particular, who perhaps experiencing these problems around them, which, as you mentioned, will only get worse if we don't take action. Almost, if they don't feel particularly creative or artistic, how do you almost get them into that environment? What are the more practical ways of introducing them to the world of art and that sense of togetherness that you mentioned?
I have to tell you first, I truly believe that we're all born with creativity, and we're all born with the need to create, whether that's visual art or music or dance or acting, or writing. You see young children with this kind of inborn need to create. And then this creativity slowly, it could be through the educational system, it could be through this set of rules that we keep teaching the new generations that the creativity kind of gets pushed aside. Picasso said that if you want to stay creative, you have to remain a child and not grow up. And that's, I feel like, is where that comes from. So I don't think there's a person on this planet who's not creative. I just think that there are people who need to find a way to tap into it. And at the end of the day, I think creativity is really going to be our biggest asset in the world that's being robotized and digitalized. And, I think that creativity is something that is innately human, and it will stay our biggest treasure. So visual artists and artists across the board are taught how to bring this creativity out and how to be inspired. So I share those tools with the kids I work with. And again, there's an apprehension at first, but after a while, it really becomes so easy, and it becomes fun, and it becomes a moment that we all share without judgment. And that's really the moment that needs to be cherished. So to answer your question, I think that we all just need a little push to tap into our creativity, that it's in there somewhere, and that art can be not just career or a way of life, but for a lot of people, it can be a way to heal. It can be a way to pause from this craziness we call our everyday routine. And it can be a shelter. I mean, we've seen in the pandemic, so many people have asked, what would the lockdown look like without movies and music and arts and all of that? And that is 100% true. And I don't think we should set that aside. I think we should really remember that arts have helped us through the lockdown, and arts can help us further on. I just wish we had more kind of art appreciation in our educational system. I wish we had more kind of art as a way to learn. And there are definitely people who talk about it a lot, that, moving forward in our educational system, art can be the tool to learn, and art can be a way to, really further your career and be something that can help you no matter what your job is.
And you mentioned earlier, I just wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more, almost that experience of feeling like you've introduced someone to the world of art and that's almost changed their life. I wonder if you could discuss a little bit more about that, what that feels like for you, and how that can help the person in question.
That is, it's a really kind of awe moment. It's really incredible, and I'm always surprised when that happens, and when people tell me that. Again, usually young people. But I think it's important. A lot of times we think that young people are connected to the world and they have access to the information because of the all the new technology we have available to us. But I found that a lot of young people still kind of, even on social media, stick within their circles that are the same as they are in their actual life, and that they don't venture out too much into the outside of their comfort zone. So coming into a school or a place where I invite young people to work with me, I first tell them I'm an artist. I know I don't look like an artist because I know they have a very preconceived notion of what an artist should look like, and then I just start talking to them about who I am and what I do. And I ask them to work with me. And then they're very surprised because they're still in that mindset of don't touch anything, you'll break it. So I try to tell them, and I also have teachers who, say, oh, kids behave. And I tell them, don't behave. Let's work together. Let's figure out if we can, even if we have a chaotic moment, what can come out of that. And I try to really kind of have this mutual understanding with them of what we're doing, what we're going to make together. And I think the main point is to really allow them and myself to be a part of something that is larger than us. I think we also as humans have that need. When you're kind of a small moment in a larger picture that seems really incredible. It's really interesting to see how that happens. What's funny is that, I said to that girl who told me that I've changed her life, I said, we had an opening that night, and I said, why don't you bring your parents tonight at the opening and you can show them what you made? And she didn't. And I said, why don't you bring your parents? And she said, they wouldn't understand. So sometimes it's just about letting it happen, where the secret kind of lies.
Great. I think that's a really great point to end the interview on. So I'd just like to say thank you, Edina, for coming along and talking to us. Thank you, everyone who's watching, for attending the event. And I hope you have enjoyed it and will enjoy whatever's to come. And a big thank you to Valerie, who's done a lot of work organising it. So yes, thank you, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the event.
Thank you, William.